The journey of caring for a loved one who is living with dementia can be quite challenging. The aim of this podcast is to make caregiving less daunting and more fulfilling. On this platform, we share knowledge, understanding, and experiences. We enlighten, give hope, and encourage, and in the process, create positive awareness about different aspects of dementia. Welcome to my podcast, Dementia Caregivers Corner. My name is Julia Ratladi. Dementia Care, how deep is your love?
In her white paper, Dr. Éthelle Lord pointed out two major challenges in long-term care: staff-to-resident ratios that leave workers stretched too thin, and a communication gap between care providers and families. She explained that this often means staff do not have enough time to truly know the residents, which can lead to unmet emotional needs. In today's episode, I'm joined by the lady of the moment, Dr. Éthelle Lord, to explore these issues in depth. We'll discuss the impact of staffing on both residents and caregivers. We'll discuss the importance of effective communication between families and caregivers or care providers, and what new models of dementia care, such as the Transactional Dementia Intelligence model, can teach us about improving quality of life. Dr. Lord is a leading voice in dementia care. She's a master dementia coach and consultant, the founding president of the International Caregivers Association, and the creator of the Transactional Dementia Intelligence model, among many other accomplishments. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor, it is my privilege to welcome in today's episode Dr. Lord.
Well, thank you very much, Julia, for this warm welcome. I appreciate it so much. Such a distance and yet such a small world.
Oh, you can say that again. Let's just get into it, Dr. Lord. The last episode that is streaming now, I had a guest by the name of Donna. Donna lives in Scotland, and her mom or her parents live with dementias. What Donna shared in the podcast was that she left her job to care for their parents full time. Because you know why? The mom was given a prognosis of about 3 years to live. And guess what? 19 years later, Agnes is still alive. That's the mom, right? So I want to come back to you. You cared for your husband for 20 years or more than 20 years.
Yes.
Looking back, Dr. Lord, what do you wish you had known then that you know now? You know, some of those things that would have made your care journey a bit better.
Yes. Thank you for that question. Very important. I think everyone can ask the same question. Today, as it was yesterday, it's not yet corrected. We still have a very large problem in home care, home health, adult daybreak. That's where we need to put our efforts, our training, our time, and our money, because we still can keep our loved one safe and under close supervision. If, for some reason, as in my case, eventually my husband needed skilled care, then it meant that I had to let go. But I followed him. Every day I was there. So that's how I got to learn everything I know. I saw it for myself. I saw it for other people. So I think if we can improve caregivers, whether they're in home care or in adult daybreak or even in assisted living or skilled nursing, if we can give them the proper training. My program includes family caregivers because all the time I took care of my husband over 20 years. I could never go myself and give him help. That was not allowed. I finally worked myself into it as a dementia coach. Otherwise, I couldn't do it. I even had a doctor make me sign a release form that he was no longer responsible for my husband's health if I was involved. And I said I would gladly sign the paper, and I did.
Well, what was not available then that we have now that is making the lives of caregivers a bit better?
We still don't have it. That's why my program is out there, and it will take probably a good decade for everybody to adopt the Transactional Dementia Intelligence business model of care, and also the training, which is all based in the psychology of the dementia brain. That knowledge is not out there yet enough. There's some places, little spots here and there. It needs to be all over because it is the first business model that was created. We see a lot of models, a lot of programs, a lot of different things that people try here and there, hit and miss. Sometimes are difficult, some are not. This program is not difficult to understand, but it benefits everyone.
You mentioned the focus on the psychology of the dementia brain. And I think when I was going through your profile, I saw that you authored that theory, of the psychology of the dementia brain. Can you describe that in simple language, like layman's term? What is that?
Let me demonstrate it to you.
Please.
Even over the waves.
Yes.
Julia, listen to me. I need your help. I just demonstrated to you how to get you in the present. It's that easy. That's the psychology of dementia brain. That's in the words. However, the whole psychology is a little bit larger than that. And it's based on transactional analysis by Eric Berne, who was a psychiatrist. I adopted his theory, which has been proven over 60 years now to work. So what happens in the Lord's theory, or the psychology of the dementia brain, is that eventually that person that is diagnosed with dementia ends up with only one of the three ego states. And we have to know where that is. Which one is it? Which one of the three? I explain that. I show that to people. But the most important thing, the key, is to bring that person into the middle ego state, which is the present, the here and now. So when the person is confused, when the person is angry, when the person is combative, or when the person is lost completely, it's possible to say, Julia, listen to me. I need your help. At that moment, you bring that person into your presence in the moment, and they can hear everything you say, which saves a lot of time, which improves the quality of life because the person living with dementia believes they're understood. I had a client, give you a real example, in the Netherlands, who was fighting a lot with her husband every night when the sun started to come down. They call that sundowning. However, everybody has that. You and I have that too, Julia. It's called low energy. And so when you have low energy, you become more, maybe more combative or more quiet. It could be either one. And so I taught this person, the caregiver, the family caregiver, how to get her husband in the present. 2 days later, she contacted me and she said, tonight he was whistling and I was singing while we were cooking dinner together.
Wow. Great stories that we would like to hear more of in the dementia space.
That's the difference when you know the theory of the dementia brain, which I call Lord's theory.
The way you describe it seems so simple, yet it eludes a lot of people in the dementia care space.
It makes that person feel worthwhile. That man all of a sudden felt he had some value. I need your help. And she said that he felt that he could help. He felt he was needed, he was wanted, and he was ready to help her.
Okay. Why do you think that we don't get it as caregivers of people who live with dementia? What are we missing?
You're missing the theory. How does it all work? How does the brain work? Personality. It has to do with also personality. We're all persons, right?
Yes.
We're all human, right? Mm-hmm. And so you have to know, how does the brain, how does the personality, even when the person has dementia, it does not mean that they're crazy. It means that they process information differently. Know how to get into that space, and you have it. Quite a discovery.
Yes. I'm quiet because I come from Botswana. It's in Africa. And we still don't know what dementia is. So when you mention that word mad, that's how some of us describe our people who live with dementia. We think they're mad. So I think that's why I was taken aback there.
Mm-hmm. And you know who's mad? We are.
Somebody said that actually in the podcast.
We are, you and I.
Yes.
Okay, so I have somebody right now in Africa, Paulina Phillips, who's training to be a trainer in that theory. And she's going to be able to help Africa because, as you just said, Africa, of all places, uniquely looks at dementia as a crazy condition, when in fact, the person with dementia is looking at you as crazy because you don't understand them. Well, let's understand them. It makes it simple. It reduces the cost, reduces the stress, reduces anxiety, reduces burnout. It increases profits for company because people can work faster. People are happier. It affects everyone.
Yeah. I will package you and take you with me everywhere I go. So you share this kind of information because I know how much people go through who are dementia caregivers. Like they have no clue of what to do. In most situations, really, if they can get at least half of what you're saying here, they will be better people.
They'll be better people because they know what is effective in the brain of that person, and therefore they're not looking at some other area in the brain for something they cannot get. And this is what's happening. So I'm telling you, when I teach you, I tell you where they are. And if you need to bring them out of there in the present, I'll show you how to do that. But do not go into the third ego state, which is absolutely not reliable, faulty, and problematic for them, very problematic for them. If you know that, then don't go there. I'll tell you where you can go to be safe.
Okay. So I want an example. So this person lives with dementia and they're constantly telling their caregivers that I want to go home. I want to go home. And they get agitated by that. Can you demonstrate your theory there? How do we go?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. When you were born, your brain is hardwired for 4 feelings: sad, glad, mad, and scared. Sad, glad, mad, and scared. So when you just said what you said, I want to go home, they really don't want to go home. They're maybe 85, 90 years old. I want to go see my mother. There's no possibility there, right? You have to go to the feeling because that's the ego state that's very active and remains active to the time of death. They're born with it and they die with it. You and I will do the same thing: sad, glad, mad, and scared. And so in the case of I want to go home, you go to that feeling. You love home and you love to be home and they love to have you home, don't they? And the person does exactly what you just said. That's right. And the energy starts to go down. The need to go home goes down. Now they can hear you. Come with me. I need your help. And they follow you into another activity because we know with dementia that the short-term memory is pretty well defective early. And so you know that going home, that moment will be gone. They will repeat that for a stage because for some stages in dementia, it lasts so long and then all of a sudden they shift to a different stage and you'll never see that again. And at the end, you don't even hear their voice. And so you don't hear the voice.
All right. Thank you. My mind is running to different people that I've been with who live with dementia or different caregivers that we talk about all these issues. And I'm actually imagining you in the middle there, teaching and imparting actually this that you are sharing with me here. Let's go to the next question. I have, I think this is the gist of our podcast today. I had a guest here who is in Australia. She's a retired clinical nurse and she trains dementia caregivers. So on the podcast here, she shared with me how they are starting a new system of where they engage the same caregivers for a limited number of residents, like maybe 4 caregivers for 12 number of residents. They just rotate among these 4 without putting in other people from outside. And she mentioned that the reason is because they want the caregivers to understand the residents more. So I want to ask you, could you share your thoughts on this approach? Like how having consistent staff might impact residents' care and well-being?
Well, that's a good thought, but you know what? They're going out of their way to do something that could be easier. Why? Because it really matters. What matters in this case is the quality of care, the quality of training of the person providing care. And so the person that if they're really have a good personality, they might trigger the memory in that person. Yeah, that's my caregiver. It's good to keep the same people, as you just said. However, those people still do not understand the psychology of the dementia brain. You don't have to know so much about the person when you know how the person's brain is working, right? And in the Transactional Dementia Intelligence, we actually ask for family caregivers to become part of the care team. So it's even better than those 4 people you're talking about that are familiar, keep coming day after day. That family caregiver needs to come in day after day. That is where the power lies. That's where the communication improves. That's where the care improves. And that's where the quality of life becomes ideal.
Okay. You mentioned that you don't have to know much about the person. And my mind went to the advanced care planning. And in one of the assessment, you want to know what this person was like, what they did when they did not live with dementia, when they were not yet diagnosed with dementia, their activities, everything about that. I'm in this group of 4 caregivers that I mentioned, and I know all about this that is coming from outside. And I'm hearing you talking about the inside. Can you correlate the two, relate this to?
Yes, I think what you're referring to is what they call person-centered care.
Yes.
Person-centered care.
Yes.
There's no more person-centered care than the psychology of the dementia brain. You tell me if there is something better, I'll eat my words. Person-centered care is understanding the person. Maybe let's say it's an engineer. So you know he's an engineer and it's a male, and the activities around that male and how you speak to him must be person-centered. So that person, I also read faces. I happen to read faces. I took courses in that. In order to understand the person with dementia that doesn't speak anymore, I can tell more about that person than if that person could talk to me. So person-centered care has to do with what they used to do, but there comes a time where what they used to do doesn't apply anymore. So while it's applying, you need to really pay attention to that. So the engineer might like to use their fingers, their hands to figure out things, give them a problem, they'll work on it. And that's a good thing. However, their brain is still working under the psychology of the dementia brain. Same model. That never changes. It doesn't matter if they had frontal lobe or if they had vascular dementia or if they have Alzheimer's. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. The brain is the brain. Sad, glad, mad, scared. Sad, glad, mad, scared.
I thank God for the opportunity to talk to people such as yourself. It really expands my view, my mind about certain things in life. So thank you again. So I'm still going back to the example of the 4 ladies that I gave. What I'm picking from what you just said, because my question was going to be, what's the importance of having consistent members of the team attending to same residents? How does that affect their well-being? But I've heard you saying it does not matter. Maybe let me just ask it so you answer yourself. There is this caregiver who shared with me that their well-being is not taken care of by the employer, and as it's not taken care of, she gave an example that she was rushing to assist a resident and she fell, the caregiver, on the step by the stairs. The manager came in and just asked about the resident, never uttered a word about how this person who felt or how she was doing. And I'm asking myself, or the question, I'm not asking myself, I'm asking you actually, with that in mind and what we have just talked about, the 4 caregivers not being able to do what they can do as long as they don't know what is happening in the psychology of the brain, as you call it. How does having consistent staff, if I'm able to put it that way, assist with the caregiver's well-being?
Yes, well, caregiver well-being is as important as the person living with dementia. As important, because if one fails, the other one will fail. And so it's really important to take care. That's why this training is essential to anyone providing care, because it will save them a lot of time, energy, stress, anxiety, burnout. I mean, those are the people that burn out. That's why we have 30% of family caregivers dying before their person, because they do everything they can and they don't have perhaps enough in training. That's why I say for home care, it may be that that person that lives with dementia never has to go to long-term care. If it's well taken care at home and not like my husband living at least 21 years, there's nobody who would be able to sustain that at home. I would not be here talking to you right now. So there are some cases that need long-term care. There's no doubt about that. But I would like to have those people in long-term care, like those 4 caregivers you're talking about, to be trained properly so they're protected as well. Now, under the Transactional Dementia Intelligence program, those 4 people you're talking about work only 6 hours but are paid for 8 hours. And why? Because the work that they do is so difficult. It's physical, it's emotional, it's spiritual.
I understand when you're able to talk to organizations, to businesses. How do you then reach a family caregiver who's just independent out there with this model?
Yes, we have people that come like that. That person that I just gave you the example of in the Netherlands is a family caregiver. That's a person that was curious enough, was having enough problems, was actually in tears when she was talking to me. At her wit's end, what can I do? She wanted to keep her husband home as long as possible. Once she learned that, 2 days later, she reported him whistling and her singing. So that changed their whole dynamics. It means that they're going to be able to stay together longer. She's finding ways to manage now. She's got a new perspective. And so it applies to family caregivers just as much as the person administrator having a big long-term care home.
Communication. Let's come to the communication part of it. We are in season 2 of our episode now. So in season 1, I was talking to Shelley. Shelley is here in the UK. Her mom died of mixed dementia. Her bone of contention was that there is no communication between the caregiver and the family. Her bone of contention was that there is no communication among health professionals themselves. So I want to know, what do you think causes that? Why is there a lack of communication between care providers and families? Why is there lack of communication among health professionals themselves?
That's a big no-no in my book, because the caregiver who supposedly knows how to care for somebody living with dementia, for Shelley, in Shelley's case, that caregiver ought to have been sharing information, sharing communication, and how her mother reacted better when they did certain things so that she knows how to use the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, by the way, I want to correct what you just said, because the mother did not die of dementia. She died with dementia. Dementia is a condition. It would be like Down syndrome. It's a different way neurologically of processing information. However, they can have other things, like the mother might have had a bad heart or kidney problems or cancer or whatever. So she died of some other condition or other disease. But dementia is not a disease, it's a condition. And so caregivers have a very big part to play. They can teach family caregivers. And family caregivers, on the other hand, must teach caregivers that come in the home. For example, when we said person-centered care, what does the wife or husband or mother or father, what do they prefer? Is it music? Is it playing cards? Is it other activities that go along with their personality and maybe something they used to do as for work, for paid work years before? So you adapt some activities like that. You know when the condition progresses and maybe gets a little bit more advanced, when you see that that activity can no longer be done. It becomes frustrating for them, or they completely lose track of what's going on. So that just gives you an idea of where, how it's progressing. And that's a good thing, because then you know to change those activities and do something better for them to keep that quality of life, improve the brain. Watch the diet. The diet is very important. You know, it all starts in the stomach. And why we don't all eat yogurt in the morning, first thing in the morning, unflavored yogurt, it fixes your whole stomach.
Okay. Yes.
So I know, Julia, that's what you're going to have for breakfast tomorrow, right? I can read your mind right now.
You know, I'm laughing because I have yogurt for my breakfast, but it's flavored. So my mind was like, oh, okay, I need to change that. Every day I have.
If you start in the morning with that, it sets your stomach for the day. and you have the proper, bacteria and all that is controlled properly, and you'll have a better life, of course. There's a lot of supplements that you can take. At the International Caregivers Association, we help a lot of people to change the way they eat or to change the way they take supplements. There's a lot of things that we can test, like voice scanning, a lot of things that we can do to help you.
Right. We love that. What can we do better to improve the communication among these people that I talked about, the professionals and the caregivers and the family? What should we do? What advice can you give?
Well, the caregivers, I think, in dementia care, if they're properly trained and certified in servicing a loved one that has dementia, they need to share that with the family because they're not trained properly most of the time. If they are, they're willing to learn. And so it's easy to introduce new information so they can sleep better, they can eat better, they can live better, live longer together. That's really the key, live longer together.
Hey, my last question, I was going to talk about different kinds of dementia models. You mentioned the person-centered model by Tom Kitwood. Yes. And I also know of different other models really out there, dementia care, person-centered. There's the biomedical model that focuses on medical and diagnosis and treatment. The social model that focuses on inclusion and community. You have now the transactional dementia intelligence model. How is it different from these other models?
Yes, all the other models don't have a systems approach, and we have a systemic problem in dementia care. And so unless you introduce a systems approach, the others will not fit right. But with the transactional dementia intelligence business model of dementia care, we ask people to keep what they have, absolutely keep what they have, but we add the key, I call it the golden key to dementia care, which they don't have. That's why we have hit and miss in so many models, so many programs, and yet they're still struggling. People are still dying. People don't have a quality of life that they deserve as human beings. Life is so short, we need to respect and honor every person that we encounter. And so to do that, they need the key to opening communication with dementia. Even when the person doesn't speak, they will understand you to the time of death. That is so important to learn. And none of these other programs, and there's a lot, you've heard some, you just mentioned some, the transactional dementia intelligence really based in social and well-being model. It's a social well-being model, but it's a business model. So we look at the finances of that business. How can they do better, faster, better? How can the family live longer together? That's really important because everybody's so worried about the welfare and well-being of their person when they let them go somewhere. Even in adult daybreak, they wonder, are they safe? Are they getting what they need right now with their condition? And so we have that model in some of those places now that are working excellent, because when a business can put on their front window, this is a TDI licensed facility, the public knows that that is the best care that the person can get. And that license is only good for 1 year. They have to renew it because we want the quality to be as good as it can be.
Interesting. So it's a business model. What do you see this transactional dementia intelligence model in 5 years, 10 years time?
I see it all over the world, even in Africa.
Yes.
Yeah, because I have a person right there right now, Paulina Phillips. She's going to take it away. She's in South Africa right now, but she's getting certified and licensed to do the whole training.
Great. Thank you very much. Any other question that I might have not asked you that you think will benefit our listeners?
I can't not think of a question except that I would like to leave them with that knowledge that this is new information. I'm not repeating something that you hear every day in other situations. This is new. Nobody has ever been able to really figure out how that brain works. And if you know how it works, then you go where it works. You don't go where it doesn't work.
Great. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Julia.
Let me take this time and thank you, our dear listeners, for tuning into this episode. If you have enjoyed our conversation with Dr. Lord, or you are passionate about dementia care, please consider leaving a review and sharing this episode with someone who might benefit from it. Your support helps us reach more and more people and raise awareness about dementia-related issues. Until next time, take care for now and bye.
Dementia care. How deep is your love?